Hey everybody, how is it going? No, seriously, how are we all feeling? Yesterday we had a couple of episodes, especially the Owl House fans. We had a crazy good episode. I still haven't mentally recovered from that episode. It's so crazy. And I am just constantly thinking about the ending of Amphibia. And one thing that I wanted to talk about a bit was our old buddy, our old pal, Andrias. So with the amazing episode of The Core and the King last week, we had a lot of new information on Andrias. We saw his backstory. We saw how he feels still today. One thing that I noticed throughout that episode, he is very uncomfortable around the Core or Darcy. You just looking at his mannerisms and the way he speaks, I don't think he cares much for the Core. And I think he honestly kind of wants Marcy back. Now we know Andrias in Olivia United did not want Marcy to be possessed. He begged the Core to reconsider somebody else, but the Core needed the brightest or the smartest and all that stuff. But just looking at him throughout the episode, he clearly just does not seem to be interested or on the same page with the Core. I also found it funny that he's asking what he should call the Core when they've been together for months. I don't know if the Core and the King is supposed to take place earlier in the season. It wouldn't make sense because then at the end of the episode, it's like, hey, let's start invading Earth. So apparently for the entire time while Anne was on Earth, Andrias never asked what to call the Core. I don't know. It's a bit weird. Anyways, my theory is that Andrias is going to betray the Core. He's going to betray Darcy. That is the claim of the day. That is my theory. Several other people have also said this claim, but I want to talk about just why I think it's going to happen. One, like I was talking about earlier, how you can just see Andrias completely just not interested in the Core. Back in his past, he didn't really know what the Core was. He's like, okay, well, whatever, the Core is just a thing. He is very much, right now, he was very much back then caught up in his destiny. His father was putting all this pressure on him, saying that, oh, I'm about to frickin' join the Core. It's up to you to lead our people, and this is how you do it. You don't do it by being peaceful. You don't do it by staying friends with Leif and Beryl. You do it by conquest. And Andrias is like, okay, well, I guess that's what I have to do. That's what must be done. He had so much pressure put on him that that's just what he felt that he had to do. And he continues that because he feels that he needs to redeem himself for failing in the past, or just because there's nothing else he knows. I think that deep down, Andrias wants to just hang out with his friends, be with Leif and Beryl. Obviously, they're gone, but I think back when he was younger, he just wanted to hang out with Leif and Beryl and be pals. And even we see this side of Andrias where he's very silly, or his facade was very silly. I don't think that was entirely just a facade, because he never really dropped that sort of personality. Even in True Colors, he's joking around sometimes where he goes oh, looks like I spilled the tea, as you could say, ha ha ha. And it's that's Andrias right there. But that part of Andrias never comes out around the Core. Around the Core, he's, all right, it is time to start taking over Earth. I'm doing exactly what you think is the best for me, Core. And I think that's a little interesting, because this is where I was going to make this video anyway, but this is where I was officially okay, this I think is going to happen. Maybe, but we want to take a look at these boards that I found on the Reddit of Amphibia, because I don't really go on social media a ton, but I have been a lot more recently, just to see what the community is up to, see what they're thinking and stuff, especially since I'm making more of these videos now, and I think it's a good time. But here we have the original ending to The Core and the King. There are some boards, some little storyboards here, and we're gonna kind of go over them. So the first page just has the thumbs up Darcy with, saying gold star for you, bud. But instead of just continuing with what she says, saying let's take over Earth, she goes, you just passed a very important test. And Andrias just looks down and is like, what? A test? What test? Darcy looks up at Aaron and just goes, Andrias, come on. I would never shut myself off. I was awake the whole time. Which I don't really know how that would make sense. I don't know how you'd stay on while you're rebooting, but I guess if you're just shoving memories or organizing memories, it's hard to say. And then Andrias responds by going, so what did I just do then? And then Darcy responds, you proved to me that I have your undying loyalty. And Andrias, you can look at Andrias here, and he has sweat coming down his face, and he's looking up to the left, and he's like, we don't always know who we can trust, do we? And I really like that, because, we just had an episode where he was betrayed by Leif, sort of betrayed by Beryl, not really. And to that, the core responds, exactly. But now that that's out of the way, who's ready to start finally taking over Earth? And then Andrias goes, after 1,000 years? Oh yes, I'm ready. So it's a bit different from the original. This was apparently the original ending of The Corn and the King. I don't know where this was like originally released. I just found it on the Reddit, and I found it to be extremely interesting because we already see how I was talking about how, how Andrias doesn't act so Andrias-y around the core. He's very serious. He's just more doing it out of something that he has to do, that it is his job. It is his legacy that he has to continue on. He's doing it to be redeemed in his father's eyes or whatever. Because his father is in there. So his father is part of the core. He's still watching over him. It's just that he's with so many other people. And that's kind of freaky. And I think the core was smart enough to pick up, even though this is the original ending, so this isn't even canon anymore. But these ideas still are implemented or put in through subtext, I think, in the show. So these ideas are still there. And so the writing intent probably still has this come up even though it's not officially in there. So whether or not it's actually canon is hard to say, but I feel as if the intent behind what was in this still sort of applies even if it actually wasn't said. And there's a reason they released this too, so maybe that could also be a reason. I just really like this because the core also picked up on the fact that Andrias isn't acting so Andrias-y, and well, maybe that's always how it's been, but the core is like, oh, what if Andrias betrays us? The core has been alive for an extremely long time. It is theorized that it's like 8 original newts were formed and created the core. Some of them, only some of them apparently, being Andrias' ancestors. Then the 9th one was Andrias' father. And then, or I guess maybe there's like a 10th one. I don't think Marcy counts as the 10th one. I guess her eye is like in like the chest plate or something. I don't know. Maybe like 2 more people joined up with the core. Whatever. All of the eyes are supposed to be how many people are in the core, and there's 10 eyes plus the Marcy eye. So, but that's Marcy's body, so it doesn't really count. But the core again has been doing this legacy for so long, so the core is not ready to give it up. Whereas Andrias, without the core being there, probably would want to give it up. So I had another theory that I posted a while ago, like a week ago, where I talked about Apothecary Gary is going to beat Darcy, where I theorized that maybe by using the collars, you could put the collar of the Apothecary Gary goo, put it around Darcy. Gary would use the spores or the collars to try and take over Darcy as well. So the 2 people would be fighting for the control of Marcy, and I think like somehow through all that, Marcy would be able to resurface in her mind and take back her body and maybe even unlock her calamity powers in doing so. So I think that is what's going to happen. They use Apothecary Gary and make the core become, I don't know, back into its little ball form, whatever. And I think that toward the end, we just see all this build up. We see Andrias's built up regret. It's as if the show is just building up towards his redemption, or at least maybe not just redemption. I don't know if he's going to be reading. I don't think so. I think instead it's going to be him having a change of heart near the end, especially since we have a letter from Leif's room that we found in Newts and Tights at the very end. There was one of those letters that Leif had where you had to use the glasses to read the secret writing. It was the same thing with the pot where you had to use the backlight, but in Amphibia they had like those special glasses that could read the text of what was on the letters. So maybe Andrias will read that letter from Leif. What if that was a letter addressed toward Andrias? It probably isn't. It's probably a letter addressed toward anyone who's fighting against Andrias. It's hard to say right now. But maybe that letter, he'll read that letter and be like, oh, Leif, you were right. You know, if the moon's going to come down and destroy Amphibia, there's going to be nothing left that I love. All my legacy will be destroyed if the moon comes down and destroys it. Anyway, so, and I think it's like a big collection of different things that will make Andrias eventually turn on the core. And I think another thing is that he also does care for Marcy because they were friends. They were friends. He even specifically says, I like you, Marcy. I really do. I beg the core to reconsider. So they were pals. Even though Andrias' intent was to betray Marcy from the start, it's not as if he didn't have a good time with her. And I think that maybe when he sees like the letter, or there's going to be some symbolism or something that will trigger the response and be like, listen, I can't let this happen. I gotta go against the core. I gotta, push back the moon or something. And then a lot of people are also theorizing this. Once, Marcy comes back to herself and the core comes off Marcy, that they're gonna go after Andrias next. The core still needs a host. They can't stay in their little ball form. Apparently, I don't know why they can't. That ball form seems pretty, you know, like it could attack. It's like a spider and it can like use its arms. I still don't know why the core needs a body. It's still not clear. It could just be, you know, using Marcy as like a shield so that Anne and Sasha can't attack her with the Calamity powers. Maybe Darcy's trying to get the Calamity powers for herself. It's really hard to just say. I feel like I was saying in one of my other videos where I was talking about how it's going to be Anne and Sasha versus Darcy, and then eventually at some point when Marcy comes back, all three will use their Calamity powers and they'll go after a possessed Andrias by the core. I think that is like what the true endgame fight is probably going to be. It's going to be the 3 Calamity trio versus a possessed Andrias from the core, and that's what it's going to be. And we're going to hear like the core talk a lot about the past of the world and the legacy and what it is going forward. And then you're going to hear this epic, awesome speech by the 3 of the Calamity trio talking about friendship and growth and all that good stuff, you know, all the stuff that we want to see from the Calamity trio. And it's going to be nuts. But I think with these just boards that we've seen and his connections to Leif, and where Leif has been coming more in the plot recently with just all of her preparation against Andrias, all her build-up, you know, bringing the Calamity box to Earth, bringing the pot to Earth, so much stuff. She laid the groundwork for the future with the Planter family tunnels and just so much stuff. And the secret note, there's so much Leif laid groundwork for this upcoming war. And I think that it's going to help push Andrias to make a decision. And I think the main importance of Andrias' decision to betray the core is that without Andrias, their Amphibia will fall. That unless he makes a choice for the greater good, Amphibia is doomed. So maybe by betraying the core, that will be better for the greater good. I've even had my own theory where I think the core might also have a change of mind, where if they could all use their Calamity powers, where it's like the Calamity powers of the Calamity trio, and then the core takes over Andrias, and like they combine all their powers to push the moon back, like Majora's Mask, and they're the giants or whatever. It'd be 4 people. It'd be like Majora's Mask reference. Oh, it'd be stupid. And then then Anne gets her hand cut off or something. The freaking ant losing her arm theory is so funny to me. The weirdest part is that it actually just might happen. It's really hard to say. I mean, we'll find out in a few weeks, but still. It's just more of a gut feeling is what I'm really trying to say, which is bad for theory videos. I don't know. I'm very new, again, to making theory videos. I've recently been watching some other ones because I just made them. I just started making them because I thought it was fun. And I haven't really ever watched too many other theory videos. I mean, I used to do that a lot back when I watched Gravity Falls, but I was much younger then, so now I'm a bit older. And I haven't really watched them, so I started watching some other people's, and I was like, wow, they are much more organized than I am. So I think for me, I want to be a bit more organized, but I also want to kind of keep my own style to differentiate from others, where people have been recommending me to watch the Roundtable, and I have watched a few of their videos. They're very, very good, very well researched and very well delivered. But I think for me, I think I just have more fun kind of rambling and sort of sharing my thoughts and excitements with everybody, as opposed to just being extremely analytical. I want to be like a combination of both, right? Where I want to have that sort of, you also see like reaction people will post their reaction stuff. I kind of want to be like a combination of the two, where I'll talk about my feelings on the episode and how much I love it, but also sort of toss in some theories in there too. You know, it'll be like a salad of everything, just a little bit of everything in one, you know? Something like that. I think that's where I want to kind of take this channel going forward. And I do want to be a bit more organized, maybe even do a little bit more editing, but I have 3 other channels that I also work on while doing this new one. I've just been putting a lot of time into this one recently since it's newer, and because it's been getting a lot of growth recently. So thank you again so much for all that. I think that'll be it for me though, so thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'm gonna leave it there. I think I'll still make another video before we get next week's episode. I'm not really sure what it's gonna be about, but I still want to talk about Amphibia because I love the show, so the more videos that I can get out before an episode airs, the better, I think. So I can just share more and more of my thoughts before the show comes to an end. So again, let me know your thoughts on what you think Andrias' fate will be. If he will betray the core or combine with the core, whatever. Let me know what you think, because I love reading all your comments. So again, that'll be it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one, everybody.